fix it? We fix it. Here. I read 7 books this week. Hello everyone, my name's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. We're here to talk about books. I'm gonna do something really stupid. I have decided that I'm gonna try to read a book a day for a week. Why? No reason. I don't know how this is gonna go, and I very well may just give up, but I've been reading way more than usual this year. In previous years, I was lucky if I read 20 books. Like, that would be a really good year for me. But last year, I read 31 books, and this year, I set myself a base goal of 35 books with a stretch goal of 52 for a book a week. So far, I am on track reading a book a week. I've read 22 books so far this year. So there's really no reason to do this, even from the perspective of like, oh, I want to catch up on my reading goal or something. Not even that. Just, I just kind of want to see. I have 7 physical books right here. That's how I'm going to try to be doing this, spending more time physically reading, because I do listen to a lot of audiobooks. Slight majority of the books that I've read so far this year have been audiobooks, but I have a lot of physical books that I own that I have never read. So we're just gonna do it. Oh wait, I messed up. One sec, I have to pick out a different book. I'm an idiot. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. So the problem is that I had picked out a book that I have already read. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually in the middle of a book right now, and this will work out. I will finish that book today, and then I will spend the rest of the 6 days reading 6 new books. 3 of them are Agatha Christie books, because I wanted to pick like shorter books so that this was actually possibly feasible. Okay, so the book that I'm reading right now, I'm not gonna go grab it. That's the 3rd book in the Bartimaeus trilogy. It's Ptolemy's Gate by Jonathan Stroud. I'm gonna try to finish that book today. I'm a little over halfway through. And then for the rest of the week, let's see, I'll put them in order as I do this. Tomorrow, Monday, I will read Endless Night by Agatha Christie. Then I will read Demian by Herman Hesse. This was one I was actually supposed to read in college, and I think I read a little bit of it. I don't remember it at all. I definitely never finished it. Then I'm going to read Murder at the Vicarage, Agatha Christie. Then I will read Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. Then I will read Agatha Christie, The Pale Horse. And then I will read Bones of Faerie by Janni Lee Simner. I read this as a kid. I have very vague memories of it. I don't think I really liked it that much, but recently a friend of mine who also read it as a kid and really liked it, reread it, said that she loved it. So I'm gonna read it again and see, because I really don't remember it at all. I don't really know what I'm trying to get from this, but at the very least, I'll be cutting down a little bit on my TBR. So wish me luck, I guess, and I will be back later to let you know how it's going. So to start off my book a day for a week challenge, I'm going to be finishing up Ptolemy's Gate, which is book 3 of the Bartimaeus trilogy by Jonathan Stroud. This is a series about a young magician named Nathaniel who calls a genie, whose name is Bartimaeus, to help him exact a revenge plot. That's the plot of the first book. And it takes place in London. I'm not sure what the time period is supposed to be. It's pre-modern technology for sure, but I don't know exactly. There is a reference, someone references like 1914 at some point, so it's definitely past that, but the way history has progressed is definitely different, because in this book, they're now like at war with America, which is still a colony, so I don't know. It's very cool. I really like the world building and the magic system. It's YA. I thought it was middle grade, but apparently it's young adult, or at least this 3rd book is young adult, but it's very young adult. But like for middle grade / young YA, it is quite gritty, and it deals with some very heavy conversations about oppression and subjugation. Like there's this very serious conversations about like slavery and like free will, because the magicians like enslave the genies in order to do their magic. But it's very interesting, and I've never seen anybody talk about these books, but I read the first one as a kid and then bought them all because I loved them, and then never read them all. So I did a reread of the first book, and now obviously I'm reading book 2 and book 3, and I still have quite a ways to go. This book is 500 pages, and I am on page 238. So I have about half of this book left to read, and I will try to do so today, which probably won't be hard because I have actually been very obsessed with these books, and the second one I basically did this with. I had read about half of it, and then I was so intrigued with what was happening that I ended up reading the second half in like a day, and that book was a little bit longer. So anyway, here we go. We're getting started on my challenge for today, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where I'm gonna make the time to do this. I don't know okay, I'm going. Bye. Good morning. It is day 2 of this ridiculous challenge. I did finish Ptolemy's Gate last night. I forgot to update. I read a couple chapters at a time, like every couple hours throughout the day, and then I read the last chunk of it before I went to bed. I loved it. It was incredible. Made me sob, like shaking sobs. It was so good. It was so good. And now today I am reading Agatha Christie's Endless Night, which has like the creepiest cover I've ever seen. And I don't know what it's about because it doesn't have a description on the back. It just has a review from the Boston Globe. So, I mean, it's an Agatha Christie, so it's a mystery, but yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm starting a little bit earlier today. Yesterday I didn't start till noon, but today it's 9 o'clock, so I will probably do the same thing I did yesterday and just read a couple chapters at a time until it's gone. So that's the plan. Alright, so it's about 4:15. I am a little over halfway through Endless Night. I'm liking it so far. The characters are fun. The writing is really good. I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be kind of problematic. You know, Agatha Christie was problematic, and I'm a little worried it's going that way. But the writing itself is good. The story is fun. Nothing really mysterious has happened. We have like a creepy local legend and a couple just basically suspicious characters, but there hasn't been any actual like thing that would need to be solved yet. But just in the last chapter, someone threw a rock through their window, so we're getting started. I think it's about to start moving quite fast because this is a very short book and I'm already halfway done. So I've been doing like I did yesterday, just reading a few chapters at a time throughout the day. In a couple more sittings, I will be done to then just have a chunk left to finish before bed tonight because I always read before bed. So I probably won't update again until tomorrow unless something really wild happens. Hello, good morning. It's Tuesday. Last night I finished Agatha Christie's Endless Night. It thoroughly creeped me. I was not ready. I think the last update that I made, I said that I felt like it was gonna start going really hard in the end. And I was correct, but all of my guesses about what was going to happen and who done it, I was wrong. And then I was wrong again. And then I think I was wrong again. It did turn out to be a little, there was some not great attitudes about a specific Romani character who was called by a slur through the whole book, but given when the book was written and given that people still don't know that word is a slur, gonna give Agatha Christie a pass on that one, though like I said, she was racist anyway, and there are racist attitudes toward that character in this book anyway, so, you know, not giving her a pass for very much. Anyway, on to the next. Today, day 3, we are reading Demian? I'm gonna say Demian, that makes me feel better, by Herman Hesse. This was the one I was supposed to read in college and didn't. I think I read a little bit of it. I'm looking forward to this one. The back description is giving me some sort of Faustian dark academia vibes. Does that even make sense? But that's what I'm getting here. So I will probably just do the same thing again and read in little chunks throughout the day and then leave a bigger chunk for tonight. I've been really liking it. I have found myself, instead of times where I would just be like scrolling on my phone or sitting watching YouTube videos or something, which I don't punish myself for watching YouTube videos, but instead of doing those things, I am reading because I'm like, well, I have to finish this book today. Definitely not a sustainable model for me. I do not intend to continue reading 200 plus words every day for the rest of eternity, but as far as just for like a week and to, you know, knock some books off my TBR, I like it. It's fun. It's been fun. And so yeah, yep, on to Demian. Hello everyone, it's another beautiful morning. So last night I finished Demian, I don't know, whatever, I'm calling it Demian. It was what I thought it was. It was a rather Faustian, rather dark academia type vibes. I really liked it. It was very thinky and very like pretentious, but I didn't mind that. I did find that I was having a little bit more trouble yesterday getting the reading done. Like I found myself kind of rushing through it, and I think that was just because I had been spending so much time reading. It wasn't anything to do with the actual book. I ended up giving it 5 stars. So I think I'm starting to feel it a little bit. I'm starting to feel how much time I'm having to spend just sitting there reading every day, which in a lot of ways is a good thing, but also can be a little bit exhausting sometimes. So today's book is Murder at the Vicarage, another Agatha Christie. The last one creeped me out very thoroughly, so I'm a little bit worried about this one, but on the reviews for the other one, there were people saying that like that one creeped them out more than most Agatha Christie books do, which the other 2 Agatha Christie books I've read Ordeal by Innocence and Then There Were None, and those didn't creep me out, so hopefully this one won't either. But I'm gonna do same thing as I've been doing, I suppose. Maybe I'll do bigger chunks so I'll do fewer chunks and I'll do bigger chunks. I was doing like 2 or 3 chapters at a time, so maybe I'll do like 5 or 6 chapters at a time, so that I only have to do a couple sessions. That makes sense. Let's try that and see if it's better. Good morning. It is Wednesday. Day 5, right? Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting close. So I finished another book yesterday, Murder at the Vicarage. I really liked it. Very cozy. Did not creep me out. A+ Agatha Christie murder mystery. I did read in bigger chunks, like I said. I think I ended up reading it in 3 separate sittings, and I did find that I liked that a lot better, and it was less draining on my like brain, but also time. I feel like it took me less time because I was spending less time like settling into reading it. Today's book is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I don't think this has any sort of chapter type things because it is Virginia Woolf, but it's about 200 pages, so I believe what I'm gonna do is read this in 4 chunks of about 50 pages. That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that front, so see ya tomorrow probably, or I suppose later if something just throws my entire life into upheaval and makes this experience different than all the other days for some reason. Good morning, it's Friday. 2 days left on my book a day for a week challenge. Yesterday's Mrs. Dalloway went really well. I think I divided it up just right. Reading it throughout the day in a couple of chunks did make it easier to find the time and less, I felt less like I was forcing myself to read. And on top of that, I think that that book in and of itself is a lot easier to read in bigger chunks because it is so, I mean, it's pure stream of thought. So it's easier, like once you get into it, to just sit and read it for a little bit of a longer time rather than trying to break it up. Today's book is The Pale Horse. I just started, I'm on chapter 2, another Agatha Christie. This is my last Agatha Christie of the week, and it's the last Agatha Christie that I own. I am gonna do the same thing. I am gonna read in 3 chunks throughout the day and then another chunk before bed. On the back of this one, it like references witches and stuff, but when I looked on Goodreads at that description, it didn't mention anything of the sort. So I'm very interested to see what this one is actually about. I have no idea. But I have noticed the way that she creates voice, I don't know how she does it, but it is very interesting to me. I was finishing up this first chapter when I realized that the voice in my head for this book was so distinct from the voice that I had in my head for Murder at the Vicarage and for the other one that I read this week. Endless Night. Her writing style is the same. Like, it's still very Agatha Christie, but something about the way that she writes just reflects the psyche of these characters in such a way that it reflects upon the voice in my head. Anyway, that's that. So I'm gonna go get my first chunk of reading done and see you later tomorrow for the final day. Hi. I am basically done with my Agatha Christie for today, sans the section that I am leaving to read before bed tonight. I like it. It is not as good as the other. I think that this is my least favorite Agatha Christie that I've read, but that will depend on the ending, I suppose, though I can't see the ending being like mind-blowing enough to raise it any higher than it is, but it's fine, it's good. This whole week has really been all classics, except for that first day where I finished up the Bartemius trilogy, and I'm ready to get back to my fantasy. I'm finishing out tomorrow with a middle grade fantasy, and I think that that will be a perfect, like, easy, relaxing way to end out the week. Something a little bit more, I don't want to call it mindless, but like, these books are also thinky and verbose, and I love that, but it's just been a lot. I'm ready for this week to be done, but I have enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I've knocked all of these books off my TBR. It is loud with rain and frogs and cars, so I will go and I will be back tomorrow. Good morning. It's a beautiful day, the final day, and I'm very ready for this week to be over. I am tired. I'm tired of sitting and reading because I'm making myself sit and read, which is entirely my fault, and this is why I generally am not strict with myself about how much I read, either in terms of time spent reading or books per year or anything like that. Like, I set goals, but I am generally gentle with myself, and I read when I want to, because that's the whole point of reading, is that it's for fun. That being said, this was a worthy experiment. I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I knocked some books off my TBR, and I was definitely right that this is a good way to end out the week. I've already read the first chunk of it. I have a feeling it's going to be a 3-star, but it's cute, it's sweet, it's imaginative. It's a little bit darker than I remember it being or expected it to be. That's it. That's the whole thing. I'm gonna be back for a wrap-up tomorrow, but I expect today to be much more relaxed and less stressful than past days, which I feel like were stressful just because of the books that I picked. All of them were like these like high suspense mysteries, or like these very thinky, like ruminating stories, and today I just get to read a little fantasy and I'm ready for it. So I'll be back tomorrow with my final thoughts, and that's all. I did it. I feel like when people do these challenges, they usually do like 31 books in 31 days, which is way more impressive, but I don't have that kind of dedication. I am not doing that. Absolutely not. Also, I kind of cheated. As I said earlier this week, my first book was not an entire book. I read the end of this book, but it was 250 pages, which is longer than any of these books, so I don't feel bad. Anyway, it's the end of the week. How do I feel? I feel good and relieved. All this week I've been reading first thing in the morning. I do my first chunk while I'm like having breakfast, having my coffee, and today I was like, oh, I need to grab my book, and then I was like, oh, I don't have another one. I finished. I'm done. So that being said, like, yes, I'm relieved that it's over. I am not doing this again. If I ever read 7 books in 7 days again, it will just be because that's how much I'm reading. It will not be a challenge. I'm not doing this to myself again. No way. As I was saying the other day, like, the joy of reading is that it's a joy and you do it for fun, and so when I make myself read, it does take the joy out of it. However, I liked all the books that I read. The last 2 books that I read, which were The Pale Horse by Agatha Christie and Bones of Faerie by Janni Simner, were my 2 least favorite books of the week. However, they were still really good. I have this problem. My Goodreads ratings mean nothing. They are just in the whim of the moment how many stars I feel like giving, and sometimes 3 stars is a good thing, and sometimes 3 stars is not really a good thing. In the case of these 2 books, I gave them both 3 stars, but it was a good thing. And this one in particular, ending the week with Bones of Faerie, which was so fast. This was actually, I was calling it middle grade, but it's not. It's young adult, and so actually is the Bartemius trilogy, which I have spent all of these years thinking this was middle grade, but it is not. But they're like, they're on the younger side of young adult. Like, I would give either of these to like a 12, 13-year-old. I guess the Bartemius trilogy I would wait a little bit longer, especially for the later books, because the characters do age up, which as usual means that the content ages up a little bit. This one, I would give this to a 12-year-old, no problem. It's very, anything that might be suggestive or violent is kind of more alluded to and like blurred out rather than being explicit, whereas like the Bartemius trilogy gets a little bit gruesome and it deals with slightly some heavier topics that I just think would be worth waiting a little bit so that the kid can actually like grasp the gravity of what's being discussed. What was my point? Anyway, so, okay, shall we just, like, go through? I'm just gonna go through. So, the Bartemius trilogy. This was my favorite book of the week because this series is one of my favorite series now. I really didn't expect that. I thought going in that this series was gonna be, like, a 3-star series. No, I loved it. So, I mean, we already discussed how 3 stars means nothing to me, but regardless, I think the first book I gave 4 stars because there were, like, a couple little things that that just didn't work for me, but books 2 and 3 I gave 5 stars. I loved them so much. I never expected that a book published via Disney, which this is, right? Yeah. The first one has the Disney logo on it, the second 2 don't. But I never imagined that a book with like a Disney logo on the cover would make me feel the way that these books made me feel. I can't believe how deep and thinky they were and how creative. There are 3 point of view characters in these books, and 2 of them are told in 3rd person, but Bartemius himself, the genie, is in 1st person, and he also has footnotes, which generally I wouldn't like that, but the footnotes are actually worked into, like, there's like a meta reason for having the footnotes, which is really cool, and that, he plays with that a lot in book 3, and I don't want to say anything because it'll like give stuff away, but he plays with the structure. And so much is in the subtext and in these little tiny moments, and like, I have this habit once in a while, I'll finish a book and then I look at reviews after I finish it, and often if I loved a book, sometimes I just can't resist looking at the 1-star reviews. And for this one, a lot of people were saying, not a lot of people, but a lot of people who didn't like it were saying that they didn't like the ending. They felt like it it's a difficult ending. I thought it was perfect. I'm just gonna stop talking about it because I love it and I'm gonna give it away, and I don't want to give it away because I want people to read this book. Like, they're good. And I found a spin-off book yesterday at a book sale that I didn't know existed, and I am over the moon about it, and I can't wait to read it. I'm literally gonna read it like next, probably, even though I told a friend I would start reading something else, but I don't think I can resist. Next, I read Agatha Christie's Endless Night, which this is the creepiest. Look at her face. Why? This was really good. This was very different from any other Agatha Christie that I've read, which before this one I'd only read 2 Agatha Christie's, but now, at the end of this week, I've read 5. It's very simple and sweet, and then it takes a sharp left turn, and I was like this far in, and I was like, where's the mystery? Like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it like went really hard. But I really liked it. Prose is good. It's a little problematic, but it reads to me mostly as like a product of its time, kind of problematic, which is still problematic, but just, you know, use your own discretion on that one, I suppose. Next, I read Demian. I am surprised that I don't think I've ever seen this on like a list of dark academia books you have to read or whatever, but like, you should. It's so good. It's so thinky and pretentious, and it has that, like, it fits so well right in with like your secret history and like your gothic classics and all those. Like, it was really good. I wouldn't read it again because it was like very heavy-handed, and I could see some people being like, okay, this is just this guy like ruminating on the meaning of life, but like, it was good. Next up was Murder at the Vicarage, another Agatha Christie.
I really liked this one. And this is like a cozy, like, curl up with a coffee and a candle kind of murder mystery. It's all based around, like, town gossip and everything, which, like, if that's not your taste, obviously you won't like it, but I really did, and I feel like this was the book where I realized that I, like, Agatha Christie and I have an understanding. Like, I know that she is going to deliver me a surprise. I will buy all the red herrings, and I will think that I'm clever for doing it. Like, I will have a guess, and I will think I'm so smart, and I'm gonna be wrong, and I'm gonna be surprised, but I'm never gonna feel cheated. Like, that's where I'm at with Agatha Christie right now. That being said, she wrote like a zillion books, so I could be wrong about that. There could definitely be books where I will feel that it's very cheap, but so far, I have not quite felt that way. But we'll get to that later. Next, I read Mrs. Dalloway. I loved this. I can't believe nobody told me that Mrs. Dalloway was in love with a woman. Who hid that from me? Who hid that from me? Nobody ever told me that. Nobody, like, what? Like, it's not like a huge part of the story, but what? Also, I don't think I could ever read any other stream of consciousness book and not go insane, but Virginia Woolf is just... she's so good. And I don't understand how she can just write about this ordinary day and, like, these things going on in all of these different people's heads. She's head hopping all over the place, and it's so tightly woven. This book is like a spider web, and you're just like sliding along all the different threads and interconnecting all around. And Clarissa is at the center, and you start with her, and you always come back to her, but along the way, you go all over London, and you go into all of these people's heads, but it's done so smoothly and so well, and I loved it. And now, the final Agatha Christie of the week was The Pale Horse. I don't really know how to... I still enjoyed this, and there were certain things about it that I really liked. Some of the characters were really interesting, and I liked the setting, and it's not... I don't think the ending was... I don't know. Okay, so I have two competing hypotheses for why I feel about this book the way that I do. On the one hand, it's very possible that after reading 2 other Agatha Christie books this week, I was just over it. I don't really read mystery as it is. I think Agatha Christie might be the only mystery writer that I've ever really read. Like, it's just not really my thing. So it could just be that I was just tired of it. But also, I do feel like the ending was a little bit cheaper. The reveal was a little bit cheaper. I didn't care nearly as much as I did in the other ones about the characters, about, like, the people who were the people who died and, like, all this stuff. Like, I wasn't nearly as invested as I was in every other Agatha Christie book I've read. And I also do feel like the reveal was a little... When it comes to mysteries, I'll put it this way. When it comes to mysteries, I like not guessing it correctly. I'm also bad at guessing it correctly. So I guess it's good that I like that feeling. I'm sure I would also like it if I could guess it. But the point being, once it ends and I have the mystery, like I know who done it, whatever, I like to feel, as I think most readers do, that it could have been guessed. That a shrewd enough reader could have picked up the clues and possibly come to this conclusion before the end. And I like to be able to look back and be like, oh, here's all of the clues of this. But in this one, it was like, okay, I guess I can see someone, like, throwing this guess out there, but the conclusion relied upon information that the reader was not given up front, and that is presented, like, right at the end. So I was like, okay. Like, if you were really, like, you could have guessed maybe, like, certain aspects of it, but there are other things that, like, literally you couldn't have guessed because we weren't given that information. So it just felt, it was a little bit, like, by the time it was revealed, I was like, oh, okay, I guess. So yeah, this one was a little bit of a letdown, but I still liked it, and it still went by pretty quickly. And then finally, I ended off the week with Bones of Faerie, which was a relief to finish with. I read this really quickly. I've been doing all of those ones in mostly like 5 sittings throughout the day. This one I did in 3. And I didn't even mean to. Like, I had read my first chunk, and then I sat down to read again, and next thing I know, like, there's just enough left for me to read before bed. So it went by really quickly. I liked it. It was very sweet. The prose was not great for me, but I am picky about that. Not to add to the stereotype about YA, because I know that a lot of YA does have really beautiful prose, but at the same time, there was some stuff about this prose that felt a little more stereotypical YA fantasy type stuff, which is fine. It's just not for me. Like, I don't know that I've actually myself, I have no recollection of ever reading the line, "I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding." Like, that's such a stereotype, and I don't think I've ever actually read that, but it was in this book, and it stuck out to me immediately. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. That being said, this book's a little bit older. I don't think people were making fun of that so much back when it was written, so whatever. It was really good, though. I really liked it. I'm really glad that I read it. This is the first of a trilogy. I'm not going to read the rest of them, but I liked it. It was good. Definitely different from what I remember. Like, I read this, I was very young, and I remember very little about it, but this is, like, post-apocalyptic, which I didn't remember at all, and but I think that certain imagery from this stuck with me, because there were a couple of things that were mentioned that I was like, I feel like something about that stuck in my psyche and, like, influenced the aesthetic of my book, like, a tiny bit, like 1 or 2, like, little teeny things, but who knows? Anyway, the week's over. It was a good week. Now I probably am not going to do very much physical reading, especially during the day, for a while. I still will before bed. I always do before bed, but I am probably gonna just get back to my audiobooks for a little bit. I have to finish up, is it Stormfront, right? The first Dresden Files book. I have like 2 hours left. I'm gonna finish it, but I'm not reading the rest of the series. I don't care. And then I have to finish The Burning God, which I cannot wait. And I'm a little bit annoyed that I put The Burning God on pause so that I could listen to Stormfront, because I'd had that on hold and it became available, and I don't care about it, but I care a lot about The Burning God. The Poppy War is one of the best series I've ever read in my entire life, and I need it. Like, I need to have consumed the whole series, and I haven't yet, because I had to get this stupid book from the library. So, anyway, that's my plan for next week. Also, I am going to finish The Lord of the Rings this week. I've been putting it off on purpose. I will explain that when my final reaction video comes out. But anyway, that's all. That's it. That's all the books. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, I guess.